Can my creative be denied because it's like too ugly? Or like,
I don't know about too ugly. No, I don't think so.
okay.
But
Okay.
it's funny. I did run into something recently.
Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of ROI One-on-One. It's me, Roman from Tengen, and today we're going to talk about Google Ads, and not just Google Ads, but how smaller businesses, indie developers can use it to their advantage. And today I have a special guest to discuss it, Ashley Blake from Candid Consulting. Ashley, please introduce yourself.
Hi, nice to see you, Roman. I'm Ashley. I think what makes me qualified to talk on this subject is I am a former Googler of almost 10 years, and I led the app ad sales team at Google for about 6 years, where my team supported user acquisition teams primarily at mobile game companies. And about 4 months ago, I left and started Candid Consulting, where I'm advising a lot of developers, small developers especially, on how they can best execute a UA strategy on both Google Ads for iOS and Android, and on other platforms as well.
Yeah, exactly. So who else outside of ex-Googler can tell us more about all of the ins and outs of Google campaigns? I've asked Ashley to prepare some slides for us. We'll start from like very basics, like the structure of Google campaigns, and then we'll get to the more advanced stuff. And the focus will be like SMB business, indie developers, and so on. I'll start sharing my screen now. Boom. So this is a structure, right, Ashley? Maybe you can take us through it.
Sure. Yeah. So if you haven't advertised with Google, or maybe you've tested on Meta before, the structure on Meta and Google are actually very, very similar. On Google, you have a campaign, which is sort of like the highest level of things, and that's really where you set your bid for the event that you want the campaign to optimize toward. And one thing that I notice a lot of smaller developers doing when they initially set up their campaigns is they sort of just use like the default that Google gives. It'll be like app campaign number 1. And what I really, really want people to start thinking about is like when you start expanding with Google or any platform, how are you going to look at the reporting of those things, and how do you differentiate between one campaign and another? So my recommendation, and I think all of the larger UA teams follow a very similar naming convention, where they have the app name, the event that they're bidding toward, right? Because sometimes you may have a first open campaign, other times you may have a retention metric or a goal that you're bidding toward, or a purchase. So indicating what exactly it is that campaign is, the event that it's bidding on, the country that you're targeting, and then also the operating system. And the reason why I include a lot of these is that Google makes it really, really hard to extract these things in reporting. Like you can't pull in necessarily, oh, what OS is this running on and how does it all line up? So that's why I use this specific naming convention for the campaigns. And then the next layer is ad groups. And that's really where you have an opportunity to sort of like define the themes of the types of assets that you're putting into the campaigns. So I usually encourage people to stick to like 3 to 5 themes. And it can be, you can think about it as like features of your app that you've created assets for, or the style of the video or the assets that you've designed. And then that way you really get a chance to see like what's resonating with audiences really strongly. So the example I gave here was like with an exercise app. Maybe your first theme is at-home workouts, and all the text in there is like, save money on a gym, or, exercise from your living room, blah, blah, blah. And then the image assets and the videos correspond to that. And then the same thing goes for the other two, like a meal planning or the ease of use. And really what you'll start to see is that certain ad groups will pick up more, like maybe at-home workouts will start getting a lot more spend. And so then you can kind of understand, okay, this is what the algorithm likes. It sees that it's resonating with audiences, and then you can expand on that and sort of optimize accordingly. I'll pause there before I get to ads in case there's any questions you think the audience might be interested.
Yeah. About the campaigns, are there cases where my name can be too long for campaign, or if it's too long, then I'm doing something wrong? Because I can, mix it up. I can say like campaign. I can put the home workout in the campaign name, or
Yeah, I mean, you can, but that's really what the ad groups are designed for. So, if you had one campaign, I mean, you could, but I think having something that's repeatable. So like I think about everything in Excel sheets. So like I think about, okay, when I export this, how can I very easily, cut up the data so that I can basically create a pivot table? That's how my mind thinks. And so that's why I use like the underscore, because I can trim the fields that way. And I like to have them be really, really consistent. So everything literally lines up in the right cells.
Yeah. That's what I noticed too. We've done the same in Plarium. So just not only in Google, anywhere where you want to have extra dimensions for your data, just include it into the campaign name and then just pivot it.
Yeah, exactly. And Google's reporting isn't great in a lot of instances. So that's why I'm saying, like, do yourself a favor, do it right from the beginning so that you don't have to go back and like rebuild things later on.
Does it ever make sense to like restart the same campaign, right? So it's not performing as I thought, and then I'm starting the same one. I don't know, just to tweak the algorithms or to expect something from me.
I think if you asked a Google rep, and if you had asked me, 4 months ago when I was still there, I would say no, that's not what you do. But in more like practical experience, I have seen that work sometimes, where I think the algorithm gets fatigued at a certain point where it's like, this is stale, whatever. And so actually, if you do relaunch it, sometimes you may see it like pick up again, and then maybe it starts testing and trying new pockets of inventory. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily like a best practice, but if you're in a jam, I have seen it actually work.
Awesome. Got it. So this is super insightful. I have more, but they're about the creatives, and I know the creatives are coming up, so I'll let you continue.
Yeah, so I think that, as I mentioned, there's sort of layers. So you have your campaigns, and then under that you have ad groups, which we talked about. And then within your ad groups, you have the actual ads, the assets that you upload, and then the text assets that you have to write. And one thing that I encourage people to do, again, like I've sort of had an eye-opening in the past several months of like things that I thought worked, and from what I had seen for many years versus the practical hands-on experience where things actually do work. And so one thing that I encourage people to do is like play around with some of the stock images, and as well as your fully designed image assets. That sometimes stock assets work better, and hey, they're free, they're just sitting there for you to select. The tool is really, really handy. And so that's one thing that I encourage people to do when they're uploading new ads. And then
quick question, can you clarify what is a stock asset?
Yeah, actually within Google Ads, it's an option where you can just go through and like, it says select from stock assets. So they're just the basic, yeah, I'm trying to think of the service that they use, but
okay, got it.
And so I say play around with those, do a combination. That's another way that you could structure your ad groups, is like you could have one ad group just for stock images if you wanted to. The other thing that I see people not doing often is really putting in a lot of different video lengths or duration. So within Google, you can run anything from a 6-second ad to a, whatever, 10-minute ad if you wanted to. I don't recommend a 10-minute ad, but and then like really anything in between. And we'll talk about it on the next slide of like what type of inventory you're accessing. And so, I think a lot of times people are like, oh, I'll upload a 15 and a 30. And those are definitely the most common, but you can play around with a lot of different lengths of videos. And then the same with the orientations. Portrait, I think a lot of people, again, if you've run on Meta, the majority of their ad units are in portrait mode, right? In that horizontal orientation. But on Google, actually landscape, as we'll see on the next slide, is like a pretty prominent orientation for a lot of the assets that they serve. So that's why I say just make sure that you've got ample coverage.
Right. Before we go into the cool creatives, I would like to talk about the text ads. Like, is it a thing on mobile at all, where I just have the text?
It's always paired with an image. In most cases, you might see it's usually paired with your app icon pulled from the app.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not truly text. It's just a matter of okay.
Yeah, you might see just text, but I feel like in most cases you'll see at least a small icon. But the way that Google would categorize that is still considered text.
Got it. Now it makes a lot of sense, because some of the developers are saying, like, particular small ones that, oh, we're doing only text ads, and I'm like, how is it working? Right? So at least there is an icon, so at least something.
Yeah, I think one of the other things too with Google campaigns is that in order for you to create a campaign and an ad group and an ad, you actually only have to input text. Like, you don't have to necessarily add in images and videos. And so I think for people who are just starting out, the inclination is like, oh, okay, I can just add in these texts. And that is not the best way to do it. You should always have other mediums, but Google doesn't require them.
Got it. But it's the best practice, right? So maybe it's
best practice. Have them all. Use all the different resolutions and make sure you've got images and videos.
All right. Here's what we have. Is it all of the available ad options on Google?
This is probably some of them, right? This is just YouTube video inventory. Also keep in mind that AdMob is a huge component of Google's full app inventory. And so I don't have many examples of what it looks like on AdMob, but I think what I wanted to call out here is that I've noticed when I'm setting up my clients' campaigns in Meta, you have these great visualizations of like, this is where your ad, like this is how it will look on a, Instagram reel or in-stream or something like that, or in feeds. And so it gives you a lot of ideas of like, oh, okay, this is how somebody's going to see it. And I noticed with Google, it doesn't show you how your ad is going to be seen in a lot of these different formats. And so that's why I wanted to call out here is like, you have just very different inventory. So if we start at the top or the top left, the YouTube in-stream, these tend to be more, what I've noticed is more like fully designed ads. You can see this one, it's like for Wix, right? The website builder.
Yep.
And it's a much more like well-designed as opposed to like a UGC style video. And that can show up, or you see it in that case, it's in landscape mode, right? It's in that horizontal position. The other one is YouTube bumpers. This is a very short, very, very short ad that runs in front of the content somebody's about to watch. And it's meant to just be like sort of in and out. And it actually can perform really, really well for apps. But I'll talk about it in a little bit. It's something that you have to opt into. And then you have YouTube Shorts, which are much more akin to like a TikTok or a lot of the inventory on Meta. And you can see here, this is an example, like this is an actual UGC video, right? Somebody's being followed around using a product. They're talking to the camera. And so anyway, all of this is meant to show that like there's a lot of different formats, but also there's certain design styles work better in these different spots. And you don't have the control to say, I just want to serve on shorts, right? So you really have to create a lot of these assets and see what the algorithm picks up.
Right. And do I have a data breakdown per format when I see Google reporting?
Not to this degree. You can, if you have a Google rep, you can ask them to provide this breakdown, and it'll actually show you like YouTube homepage versus YouTube Shorts. But it's something that's only you can access through your Google rep.
Got it. I'm looking at all of those like creatives and videos, and I'm asking myself, like, if I'm an indie developer, like, no way I can do all of them. Is it like maybe any tips with the companies that you work with? What do you do to do the
So
to do them right?
One thing that I've noticed is like, for like some of the UGC content, you don't necessarily need to hire somebody that, is like a content creator, you know what I mean? Like some sort of influencer. I've actually found that the people who are actually work at these companies, because they know the product so well, if you feel comfortable just recording yourself and having, following yourself around using your product or whatever it is, those can actually perform pretty well. And that's at no cost, right? It's just you and your phone basically. And then I will show you, there are some other tools that Google has that allow you to create different videos and image assets. But man, there's so many like AI tools these days. I've been using one in particular for a bunch of my clients for voiceovers. And I'm really impressed with the quality in some cases, sometimes not, but the quality of production. And it's just significantly cheaper and more affordable for people to use.
Got it. You mentioned voiceovers. Like, does the audio matter so much?
The voiceover?
In general, in audio, because like my phone is always on mute.
Oh.
I'm biased.
Yeah, no, I'm the same, which is why I think for videos, like captions are really important. I noticed that like I'm one of those weird people that watches TV with the subtitles on like all the time. And so anyway, I think captions are just like a really good way to reinforce it. But the voiceover is always good to have, I think, for those that aren't watching it on mute.
Got it. Yeah, let's see some other things that like no one else is doing, but they kind of supposed to be doing if they really want to take advantage of the Google Ads.
Yeah, I think there's a few sort of like hidden gems in Google Ads that unless you have somebody like me or you figured it out on your own by really digging through the weeds within the system, you wouldn't know. So one thing that I had mentioned were those 6-second ads. Those are non-skippable and they run before a video. Somebody's about to watch a video. You don't have access to them unless you opt in here under your conversion, like in your settings under your conversions. It's very hidden. You can see it says engaged view and it says, include non-skippable video ad formats. That's what that is. And actually, once you opt into that, if you go to the next slide, that one, when you go into your ad group and you're uploading videos, you'll actually see this little create bumper ads button appear. And that only appears once you've opted in on that previous page. And then you can actually take an existing video, and Google has a tool right in there where it will cut it for you, and you can play around with the timing so that you can create those 6-second ads.
Okay. So they're never available by default, only if you go to some settings. I'll show it again. And only then.
Right, for the bumper ads specifically. Yeah, so that's a nice little tip. I'd say be cautious with this. I've seen some clients where these perform really, really well. And for others, I've seen that they can eat up a good amount of budget. Obviously, it depends, but it's definitely worth trying out a different ad format if you haven't.
Got it. And that's only YouTube as an inventory.
That's just YouTube. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Good to know. That's actually one way to control your placements, right?
Yeah, for sure. I know. I think a lot of people refer to Google as like a big black box, right? You can't see what's going on. You don't know what's running. But, you do have the ability to see some of these things, like some of the more granularities in the ad inventory if you opt into things like this. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. And what do we have here?
I think this one's like very relevant for a lot of the SMB developers, again, where like maybe you don't have tens of thousands of dollars to throw at ad creation or video assets. And so there actually are options to create videos right within Google Ads. I caution people, like, these are not going to be the most premium designs you've ever seen, but they get the job done. They're free. And so as a tool, I encourage people to play around with it if they're struggling to, come up with enough creative to actually fill all of the inventory slots.
Of course, like everything that I upload is moderated, right? Can my creative be denied because it's like too ugly? Or like
I don't know about too ugly. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
But it's funny. I did run into something recently where I used a stock image for one of my clients, right? And so these are images that Google is providing in their tool. And that asset got flagged by policy. And so I'm like, well, why even offer it if you know that it's not compliant? And I understand all the nuances there. I know why it was flagged, but yeah, so no promises there, but no, I mean, they don't discriminate against ugly.
Yeah. Good. No, but there is no excuse not to try, right?
Absolutely.
Because that's what I'm seeing. Like, people are not just trying as ad formats, especially with UGC. They're like, oh, UGC, I need to find an agency, I need to find an influencer, I need to, So for some reason, there is an association with the great costs and UGC.
Yeah, exactly. And I had another client that was like in the golf space. They had a golf app, and the founder, we told him, we're like, hey, you just need to turn out a bunch of new videos. He's like, okay, I'll go create one right now. He's like, but it's raining. And so he's like, I'm going to have to film it in my house. Like, it's going to be kind of weird. And it was the strongest performing asset. On all platforms. It performed super well. And so, you don't have to be a celebrity. You don't have to, get glamorized. Like, just put something together that's better than nothing.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
That's it with the slides. We'll start wrapping up. Actually, last one. Any parting tips for small developers? What else can they do to take advantage of Google Ads?
Yeah, I think there's the one thing that I sort of touched on throughout this is like there are so many cost-effective tools out there these days. Like I know AI is like, I hate to even use that word, but there really are some really incredible tools out there, and they allow you to demo them first so that you can get a few assets if you need to. And they're just so much more reasonable. I hate to say than like hiring professionals in some cases. Professionals, I think, are still valuable in a lot of ways, but those kinds of tools are really worth exploring and playing around with to see if they help you. And I think that's like my main tip for now. And then just like play around, even to today. Like I've spent the past 10 years basically living in Google Ads, right? Just in there. And Google doesn't always announce when like a new feature is launched. And so even today, I'm finding new, columns that I can add into the reporting that I think, I'm like, oh, I didn't realize I could see it this way, or I could run a report like this. And so play around a little bit, see what other offerings are there, and you might be surprised.
Super. Thanks a lot, Ashley. If you like it, give us a like. We'll leave all the links to Candid Consulting, to Ashley's LinkedIn profile into the description of this video. Ask questions. Actually, we'll try to reply to all of them. Yep. So thanks a lot. Have a good one. Cheers.
Great.